Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Kunana, coming up in the next 30 minutes. Tension soar in West Asia as Israel army chief tells soldiers to prepare for a possible ground offensive in Lebanon. France proposes 21-day ceasefire. US says risk of escalation acute. Russian President Putin changes rules of nuclear engagement as a stark warning to the West, plans to allowing a nuke strike in event of a massive air attack. Retreating monsoon halts Mumbai in its tracks. Heavy rains prediction for today triggers closure of schools and colleges. Citizens asked to step out only when necessary. India's PM Modi to inaugurate and lay the foundation stone of projects worth over 22,600 crore rupees in Pune today. Will also dedicate to the nation 3 indigenously developed computers. And Real Madrid's Kylian Mbappe suffers muscle injury, doubtful for Sunday's away derby against Atletico Madrid. And on to the top story this hour. Israel's army chief said that airstrikes in Lebanon would continue in order to destroy Hezbollah infrastructure and to prepare the way for a possible ground operation by Israeli forces. The Israeli military said a Hezbollah missile intercepted near Israel's economic center, Tel Aviv, is the first fired by the militant group to reach close to the city. Hezbollah said it had targeted the headquarters of Israel's intelligence service, Mossad. Meanwhile, Israel widened its airstrikes in Lebanon. Israeli airstrikes this week have targeted Hezbollah leaders and hit hundreds of sites deep inside Lebanon, where hundreds of thousands have fled the border region. Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Wednesday repeated a vow to return the tens of thousands of Israelis evacuated from northern border areas to their homes and said the Hezbollah was being hit harder than it could imagine.
Go into detail about everything we do, but I can tell you one thing. We are determined to return our residents in the north safely to their homes. We are inflicting blows on Hezbollah that they did not imagine. We do it with power. We do it with guile. I promise you one thing, we will not rest until they come home.
And British Prime Minister Keir Starmer also called for diplomacy and an immediate ceasefire to bring Israel and Hezbollah back from the brink at a UN Security Council meeting.
I call on the Security Council to seek political solutions that can break repeated cycles of violence like that in the Middle East. The region is on the brink. We need an immediate ceasefire between Israel and Lebanese Hezbollah and the implementation of a political plan which allows Israeli and Lebanese civilians to return to their homes to live in peace and security. That security will come through diplomacy, not escalation.
Well, France on Wednesday unveiled a proposal for a 21-day ceasefire in Lebanon in a UN diplomatic push with the United States to allow for negotiations in the escalating conflict between Israel and Hezbollah on Wednesday. Shortly after talks at the United Nations between Presidents Joe Biden and Emmanuel Macron, France outlined the proposal at an emergency Security Council session as fears rose that the conflict could spark a wider West Asia conflict. Deputy U.S. Ambassador to the UN, Robert Wood, told the Council that the U.S. was working with other countries to avert an escalation of hostilities, enable displaced people in Lebanon and Israel to return home, and allow for discussions on a broader diplomatic solution. French Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot said that the two Western powers were proposing a temporary ceasefire 21 days to allow for negotiations. He said it is urgent that all actors engage resolutely on a path of de-escalation. Barrot is due to travel to Lebanon this week. And as the United States and France are trying to hammer out an interim accord to halt hostilities, U.S. President Joe Biden said all-out war is possible in the Middle East, but that the window is still open to pull the region back from the brink of escalating conflict. Meanwhile, Cyprus President Nikos Christodoulos on Wednesday met Lebanese Prime Minister Najib Mikati on the sidelines of the U.S. General Assembly in New York and spoke to French and Israeli leaders.
There are a lot of deliberations that we're trying to avoid further escalation, especially with Lebanon. I was on the phone with Prime Minister Netanyahu on Saturday, Prime Minister Mikati. Last night I had a meeting with Prime Minister Macron, and there is a diplomatic, I would say, initiative, especially from the United States and France, in order to avoid further escalation.
While United Nations Chief Antonio Guterres voiced concern over escalation in Lebanon at the United Nations Security Council, he said all-out war must be avoided at all cost.
President, Excellencies, hell is breaking loose in Lebanon. As I told the General Assembly yesterday, we should all be alarmed by the escalation. Lebanon is at the brink.
Well, meanwhile, Israel's UN ambassador Danon said his country is open to a diplomatic solution on Lebanon, but vows to use all means in its goal of degrading Iranian-backed militia Hezbollah.
Lebanon has always been very clear. We would prefer a diplomatic solution. We are entirely focused on achieving our objectives, which in the north is the return of our displaced citizens who have become refugees in their own country, back to their homes, back to their schools, back to their families. Do not mistake a peaceful nation for a defenseless one. We have the means, we have the capabilities to achieve this goal. If diplomacy fails to return our residents to their homes, then we will use all means at our disposal in accordance with international law to achieve our aims.
Well, before the council meeting, Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said his country supported Hezbollah and would not remain indifferent if the conflict in Lebanon spiraled.
Hezbollah decides for itself, and it is completely able to defend itself and to defend Lebanon and Lebanese people. We have always said that we support Hezbollah in its just cause to defend Lebanon and its people against the atrocities of Israel and against its occupation. Hezbollah has done nothing to violate the resolution. The resolution prevents any manifestation of military presence which has not happened by Israel.
Well, Russia's President Vladimir Putin on Wednesday warned that Russia could resort to nuclear weapons if it faced any form of attack, declaring that even a conventional strike supported by nuclear power would be treated as a joint assault. Addressing top officials at a Security Council meeting, Putin revealed proposed changes to Russia's nuclear doctrine, emphasizing a critical shift. He stressed that Russia now reserves the right to use nuclear weapons in defense, not only of itself but also of Belarus, even if attacked with conventional arms. Putin framed these revisions as a calculated response to the evolving military threats confronting Russia, signaling a stark escalation in the country's defense posture amidst rising global tensions.
Постоянное совещание по ядерному сдерживанию. В сегодняшней повестке дня у нас...
The updated version of the document proposes that aggression against Russia by a non-nuclear weapon state, but with the participation or support of a nuclear weapon state, should be regarded as a joint attack on the Russian Federation. The conditions for Russia's transition to the use of nuclear weapons are also clearly defined. We will consider such a possibility as soon as we receive reliable information about a massive launch of aerospace attack means and their crossing of our state border, meaning strategic or tactical aircraft cruise missiles, drones, hypersonic missiles, and other aircraft.
Это оружие. Мы видим, что современные...
And still to come in this edition of DD India Live. Floridians prepare as Helene is forecasted to strengthen and hit the state on Thursday as a Category 4 storm. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar held several bilaterals on the sidelines of the 79th United Nations General Assembly in New York. And in sports, Carlos Alcaraz secures a spot in the season-ending ATP Finals.
Welcome to Jaipur.
Don multiple hats in the Indian sports bodies and the international sports bodies.
It's for India is very, very important for us, and it's not only to me but for the country.
To act as a catalyst to put yoga on a different level.
It's a pet project as far as the Prime Minister is concerned. He himself is very keen on yoga and is always there promoting yoga.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the Economic Brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, and moving on, the US Congress passed a stopgap bill on Wednesday to avert a partial government shutdown next week, despite House of Republicans' revolt against their leadership's failure to achieve new federal spending cuts. The Democratic majority Senate passed the bill by a margin of 78-18 shortly after the House of Representatives approved it. The measure will maintain the government's current level of roughly $1.2 trillion in annual discretionary funding. The bill now heads to President Joe Biden, who plans to sign it before the Tuesday shutdown deadline. Both chambers are set to adjourn this week for a lengthy recess and will not return to Washington until after the 5th of November election. And U.S. Democratic presidential candidate Kamala Harris said that she would offer tax credits to domestic manufacturers and invest in sectors that will define the next century, as she detailed her economic plan to boost the U.S. middle class at the Economic Club of Pittsburgh in Pennsylvania.
I have pledged that building a strong middle class will be a defining goal of my presidency. The third pillar of our opportunity economy is leading the world in the industries of the future and making sure America, not China, wins the competition for the 21st century. So I will recommit the nation to global leadership in the sectors that will define the next century. We will invest in biomanufacturing and aerospace, remain dominant in AI and quantum computing, blockchain and other emerging technologies, expand our lead in clean energy innovation and manufacturing.
And Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump on Wednesday said Iran may have been behind recent attempts to assassinate him. Trump's remarks came after U.S. intelligence officials briefed him on real and specific threats from Iran to assassinate him.
As you know, there have been 2 assassination attempts on my life that we know of, and they may or may not involve, but possibly do, Iran. But we've been threatened very directly by Iran. And I think you have to let them know, because the best way to do it is through the office of the president, that you do any attacks on former presidents or candidates for president, your country gets blown to smithereens, as we say.
Well, Republican vice presidential candidate J.D. Vance said he wants to use the upcoming debate against Minnesota Governor Tim Walz to show Americans how to make their lives better in a rally at Michigan on Wednesday.
Well, look, I think the way I see the debate is very simple. It's an opportunity where for 90 minutes, Governor Walz and I are going to debate the issues that matter to the American people. And what I'm going to try to show is very simple, that the candidacy, the team of substance, the team that actually has a record that we're proud of instead of we're running away from, and the team that actually has a plan is the team of Trump-Vance. And that's what I'm going to try to do is, look,
Well, in weather, heavy wind and rain slam Mexico's Caribbean tourist hotspot of Cancun as Storm Helen strengthens into a hurricane over the Gulf of Mexico. After brushing Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula, Helen could make landfall in the U.S. as a major Category 4 hurricane on the 5-level Saffir-Simpson scale, the Florida Division of Emergency Management has warned. Well, Helen is forecast to rapidly strengthen and could hit Florida on Thursday as a Category 4 storm. Helen entered the Gulf of Mexico on Wednesday and was expected to pick up strength from the Gulf's warm waters before making an expected landfall in Florida's Panhandle on Thursday evening. According to the Hurricane Center, more than 40 million people in Florida, Georgia and Alabama were under hurricane and tropical storm warnings. Meanwhile, evacuations are underway and residents of St. Petersburg in Florida are taking proactive measures by filling up sandbags before Storm Helen. Moreover, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis expanded his state of emergency declaration to nearly all of Florida's 67 counties as the U.S. state braces for Hurricane Helen, forecast to barrel ashore as a powerful, potentially deadly storm.
Of course, began preparing over the weekend. On Monday, I signed an executive order. We now have 61 of Florida's 67 counties that are in a state of emergency, and it's been able to help surge resources and help with preparations there.
Well, at a news briefing in Atlanta, the state's emergency management agency said Hurricane Helen will have a significant impact on Georgia as well.
I don't want to put fear in some folks' voice. We're all concerned about the impacts, but there's the potential of even mudslides that the National Hurricane Center has been discussing in our mountainous areas, just because the ground is going to be so saturated.
An Indian Meteorological Department on Wednesday issued a red alert warning for Mumbai, Maharashtra till Thursday morning. In wake of the red alert issued by the Met Department, schools and colleges will remain closed, as well as severe waterlogging and traffic snarls was witnessed in several parts of the city, with the landslides also reported at the Mumbai bypass, causing further disruptions to movement in the city. Brihan Mumbai Municipal Corporation are constantly reviewing the situation and has advised people of the city to only step out of their homes if required. And President of India Draupadi Murmu will visit Siachen base camp in North India's Ladakh on Thursday. The President will interact with the troops posted at the Siachen base camp. President Murmu will be the country's third president to visit Siachen, the world's highest battlefield. Former Presidents APJ Abdul Kalam and Ramnath Kovind also visited the Siachen base camp. And moving on, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi will visit Pune on Thursday. He will address a rally and inaugurate a new underground metro corridor. DD India's Yogesh Kumar Sheetal reports from there.
Pune is all set to get another infrastructure push by Modi government. The PM is scheduled to inaugurate the new underground metro corridor from Civil Court to Swargate and will also lay the foundation stone for an elevated route.
Pune is the second largest city of Maharashtra, which has gone through a tremendous transformation in urban transportation in the last 1 decade. And Pune Metro actually symbolizes this. According to news reports, around 4 lakh people traveled through Pune Metro in Ganpati festival couple of days back, which shows that the extension of metro line and new metro tracks are heartbeat of the moment.
Pune Metro is the first metro in the country with aluminium body coaches, which makes it lightest metro in the country. 100% water recycling at the station with zero effluent discharge, no tree cutting policy, integration of rooftop, Greek connector solar energy are some of the unique features of the Pune Metro.
Pune Metro are known to be the first greenest metro that we are establishing. We are almost creating 11 megawatt of rooftop solar systems. Not just that, we are also the greenest metro in the form of we have not done any tree cutting. We have always gone for tree transplantation.
Meanwhile, Punekars are excited to witness the infrastructure boost the cultural capital of the Maharashtra is witnessing.
After taking charge as the Prime Minister, Narendra Modi has visited Maharashtra 42 times. But this time, since the Maharashtra Assembly election is around the corner, this visit marks not only political significance but also a political significance at the same time. With my colleague Kapil, this is Yogesh Kumar Sheetal reporting for DD India from Maharashtra.
And moving on, India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar held a bilateral meeting with his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov on Wednesday on the sidelines of the 79th United Nations General Assembly in New York. During the meeting, both the leaders discussed bilateral cooperation and regional issues. Dr. Jaishankar also held a meeting with the Belgian Prime Minister and discussed manufacturing and technology cooperation as well as exchanging their views on the situation in Ukraine amid the Russian-Ukraine conflict. India's EAM also held talks with Greek Foreign Minister Georgios Derpetritis and discussed an array of topics including shipping, energy, mobility, connectivity and defence. Dr. Jaishankar also met UK Foreign Secretary David Lammy and held talks with him on strengthening the India-UK Comprehensive Strategic Partnership. Dr. Jaishankar also met several delegates and diplomats on the sidelines of UNGA, including foreign ministers of Kazakhstan, Morocco, Australia, New Zealand and Swiss Federal Councillor, among many others. And India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar also signed the Biodiversity Beyond National Jurisdiction Agreement on Wednesday at the UN headquarters. Dr. Jaishankar, in a social media post, said, and I quote, "India is proud to join the BBNJ agreement, an important step towards ensuring that our oceans remain healthy and resilient." The agreement under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea on the conservation and sustainable use of marine biological diversity of areas beyond national jurisdiction, or the BBNJ agreement, was adopted on 19th June 2023 by the Intergovernmental Conference on Marine Biodiversity of Areas Beyond National Jurisdiction, convened under the auspices of the United Nations. The BBNJ agreement becomes the third implementing agreement to the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. And now let's take a look at other stories making news today. India's Bharatiya Janata Party National President JP Nadda is set to visit Odisha and Chhattisgarh today. During his visit, Nadda will meet BJP MPs, MLAs and party workers at the party headquarters in the states and hold discussions. He will also provide guidance on the party's ongoing membership drive across various locations. Justice Rajiv Shagdher took oath as 29th Chief Justice of High Court of India's Himachal Pradesh on Wednesday. He will replace Chief Justice M.S. Ramachandra Rao, who has recently been appointed as the Chief Justice of Jharkhand High Court. Rajiv Shakdar will retire on October 18th. Accordingly, his tenure is less than a month. And in sports, Real Madrid said on Wednesday that the club's forward Kylian Mbappe has suffered a muscle injury, casting doubt over his participation in the weekend derby against Atletico Madrid. Mbappe was signed from Paris Saint-Germain this year only and has been in fine form this season, scoring 7 goals for Real in 9 matches across all competitions. The 25-year-old was substituted in the 80th minute of the 3-2 home win over Deportivo Alaves in La Liga on Tuesday and gestured to his thigh while leaving the pitch. Real are second in the La Liga standings on 17 points, one behind Barcelona, who have a game in hand. Real will play second bottom Getafe later next week on Wednesday. Well, Carlos Alcaraz secured his place in the season-ending ATP Finals to be held in Turin, joining world number 1 Jannik Sinner and twice champion Alexander Zverev. Alcaraz won the French Open and Wimbledon this year to take back the silver medal at the Paris Olympics. The world number 3 from Spain has qualified for the season finale for the 3rd consecutive year and will be aiming to win the trophy for the first time after reaching the semi-finals last year. Sinner qualified in August during his run to the Montreal quarter-finals. Zverev earned his spot after making the last 8 of the US Open. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Vipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.